What's up, guys? I'm BTC. A massive balance patch on the PTR. Tons of really significant buffs and nerfs. Let's go check it out. So the first thing that I do want to show you is if you go to play and you go to any of these areas here and you select all that stuff, it will say, while you wait, choose between a variety of activities while you wait for your match to start. Training room, skirmish, deathmatch, and the game browser. You can go here and you can pick any of these. You can go into the training room while you're waiting for a match. Now, obviously, I'm going to quickly leave these. Oh, it even shows it up in the top left there. Leave game and queue. So we're going to leave both the game and a queue. And because I don't want to get put into a match while I'm trying to record this. But that is going to be available for not just quick play, but also competitive as well, which, you know, isn't available because this is the PTR. But there are some massive, massive changes. Let's go and check it out in the PTR. So, wow. I mean, seriously, these are some really big changes. The first thing is that they reverted the armor nerf. Now, if you recall, they nerfed armor overall because it was too good in GOAT's comp. And now they have reverted armor damage reduction increased from 3 back up to 5. So all the characters with armor, Deva, Orisa, Reinhardt, Winston, etc., that have armor now have a little bit more damage resistance. But, wow, there have been some massive nerfs to the barriers. If you don't like barriers, then this is the patch for you. So, for Orisa, first thing, base armor was increased from 200 to 250. You notice right there on the bottom left, she no longer has 400 hit points. It is now 450 because she gained an extra 50 armor. And then on top of that, the movement speed penalty from her attack, which is the fusion driver, was reduced from 30 down to 20%. So, look at how much faster you move. I mean, this is normal full speed. And then this is the attack. Wow. It still slows you down, but it's barely noticeable now. That is such a huge change. Wow, that is incredibly strong. All right, the next thing is that her protective barrier, and remember what I said, barriers are getting nerfed. Look at this. Went from 900 down to 600. Huge, huge nerf. It's down to where Winston used to be. So, I mean, this is just a major, major nerf to the barrier for Orisa. And again, the other ones are getting it too. So this is a huge, huge nerf. The other change is a buff to Fortify. So it went from 10 seconds down to an 8-second cooldown. It still has the same duration and everything else, but it is now an 8-second cooldown. That is huge. Wow. So they're basically taking away a lot of the defensive abilities of these tanks, and they're making them more damaging, right? Like they're not fully turning them into like what Zarya is, but they're kind of shifting the game a little bit. And the next character is Sigma. So the first thing for Sigma is the experimental barrier. Health was reduced from 1500 to 900. Massive, massive nerf on that shield. And the health regeneration rate was reduced from 150 down to 120. Yet another nerf. I think it was in the previous patch, it was at like 170 or something around there. So it was nerfed yet again. I still don't like that 1 second thing. I think if they're going to nerf the barrier that much, they need to get rid of that 1 second thing. It just, I don't know. I tried playing Sigma after they added. It just felt really clunky. And I think if they're going to nerf it this much, then they should get rid of that. Next is the kinetic grasp. So this got a buff. So what you're noticing with these changes is the barrier gets weakened, but the other alternate defensive abilities are being strengthened. So for the kinetic grasp, the cooldown was reduced from 13 seconds down to 10 seconds. So a 3-second increase on that, or you know, decrease. And then the damage to shield generation ratio was increased from 40% to 60%. So for every hit you get, you're going to build more shield now from absorbing that. So obviously your barrier is not going to be up that much, but now the kinetic grasp will be up much more. Then we're moving into Reinhardt. He is not safe either. Barrier field reduced from 2,000 down to 1,600. And the movement speed penalty was reduced from 50% down to 25%. So, wow. You move so fast. He moves so fast with this now. Wow, look at how fast he moves. That is just crazy strong. Now, obviously, the barrier is way weaker. They didn't change any of the regeneration on his barrier, but obviously huge health loss. Now, the next thing is the knockback resistance. His passive, the Steadfast, that would normally have 30% resistance, is now 50%. 50% knockback resistance on his passive. That is huge. That means you getting hit by a Lucio boop or a Pharah boop or something like that, they are going to have an incredibly hard time, like knocking you out of the way or knocking you off an edge or something like that. Wow, that is just... They're really shifting the tanks from the full-on defensive into more of the attacking, aggressive type stuff. And you know what? It might be a good idea, because the thing is, there aren't many people that want to play tanks because they don't just want to sit there with their barrier, right? Like, it's one of the reasons why people don't play tanks and they don't play healers, is because they want to pew, 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 because they want to get all of those eliminations and things, and the tanks and the healers just aren't exciting enough for a lot of players. So this might be some pretty good changes. The next thing is just the developer comments for all of this stuff. They said the above changes to armor for Orisa, Sigma, and Reinhardt are aimed at decreasing the overall amount of time players spend damaging barriers while improving the individual heroes in other areas. This is a significant change to the pace of the game, and we'll be monitoring how these heroes closely to ensure that they retain impactful gameplay in the tank role. The next character is Moira, who got a nerf to her healing output. The healing was reduced from 4 down to 3.25, so it went from 80 healing per second down to 65 healing per second, which is a pretty substantial nerf to her healing. And the developer comments say that her primary heal is proven too potent, largely due to the ability to heal multiple targets. Now, prior to the 222 system, Moira was not very good. I mean, she was played in some of the lower bracket, to be sure, but in the upper bracket, she was garbage because she didn't offer any utility. The reason why she was being used now in 222 is just because of the double barrier in the bunker, and it makes it so easy when all of your team is grouped up, and you can just quickly heal all of them right there. But what's going to happen when double barrier goes away? Is she just going to completely be useless again because she doesn't have any utility? If the team isn't staying grouped up in a small area, then why would you use her? Why wouldn't you use something else? Like, if you don't need the orbs to go through the enemy barriers and stuff, then why would you use Moira, right? So while they can nerf this, I still think the character needs some utility. Next up is Deva. So her defense matrix got a nice little buff. The cooldown was decreased from 2 seconds to 1.5 seconds. So, when you're using this... Now, it does say 2 on the little thing on the bottom right, but that's just because it's rounding up. It's not actually 2. It's 1.5, which is why it goes from 2 down to 1 almost instantly. So this is going to allow more uptime and allow her to help compete a little bit more with the barrier stuff. And with roll lock in place, there's some room to improve Deva's impact as a tank. So we're partially reverting a previous change, which increased the defense matrix cooldown. And then for the next one is Widowmaker. So for her, she got a cooldown increased on the grappling hook from 10 seconds to 12 seconds. And with barriers having less uptime, Widowmaker will be even more effective at locking down aim sight targets. The change weakens her mobility, so she can be reasonably countered. So the reason why they're doing this is just because they don't want her to be, too strong with the barriers getting weak. Because if you don't have those barriers, then you're not going to be able to protect yourself. So they just want to make her a little bit more vulnerable. She's still going to be very potent. It's just, she's also easier to counter with like a Winston or a Genji or something. Next up is Torbjorn. And the overload cooldown was decreased from 12 seconds down to 10 seconds. And they said that Torbjorn has difficulty in extended teamfights because once his turret is eliminated and overload has been used, this change allows Torbjorn to stay, be more able to rely on overload more often. And now that the barriers are going to be substantially weaker, I mean, that's going to be really good at barrier breaking. And if it's only on a 10-second cooldown, that's going to be pretty good. That's going to definitely be pretty good. Next up, they did buff Genji, not in the way that I suggested. Of course, they're never gonna listen to me, but Genji's Shuriken, the ammo was increased from 24 to 30. So now you have a couple more attacks. Average hero survivability has gone up over time. Genji can sometimes have difficulty finishing off his targets. Loosening his ammunition constraints will give him a small boost. Okay, I don't think it's going to be really that amazing. I mean, we'll have to see, though, because with all the barriers getting weakened, maybe Genji can make a comeback. It's possible. But Genji hasn't been very good for quite a while. I'm not sure if just if 2 extra attacks. I mean, that's it. That's all you got. The 2 extra attacks. I don't know if that's really. I don't know if that's going to be enough. Next up is Zarya. And the particle cannon's secondary fire, the explosion radius increased from 2 to 2.5, so they buffed that back up. And then the ammo cross was reduced from 25 down to 20, so you get 1 extra attack now before reloading. And Zarya's overall damage output is in a good spot, but the secondary attack was left feeling a little too weak after all of the recent changes, so that's what they went with. And then there's a whole bunch of changes where some bug fixes, they've improved the workshop a little bit and stuff like that. They've now fixed the Doomfist reticle problem. If you know what I'm talking about, there was like a little circle that was in the center, so it looks like they fixed that. And there's also some other bug fixes and stuff. But wow, are those nerfs to the barriers just, oh man. I mean, that is pretty significant. I think that's gonna change 600 health. But I mean, look at how fast you can attack now. How much you can move. Wow, 600 health on that barrier. That is so little. These are huge changes. I mean, this is going to change up a lot of stuff. This is definitely going to change up a lot of stuff. I have no idea what the possible ramifications of all this is going to be right away. I'm going to have to kind of look into this a little bit more and figure out, what exactly is going on. I think there's a good possibility that we could see Dive come back, because Dive was the only thing that didn't get hurt in this. In fact, Dive got a little bit better. One of the things is, Winston. Look at Winston. He's still got, his bubble didn't get changed. It's still there, right? He's still got, the improved health on it. And I mean, Dive is definitely going to be a little bit better. Deva got a little bit better. Wow, those are some huge changes to the barriers. Anyways, guys, what do you think about these changes? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.